And the UK is being hit by the third heat wave of the summer. Temperatures potentially up to 34 Celsius this weekend.
Soaring cost of all-inclusive holidays to Spain, Cyprus and Turkey. What's behind it?
And the UK is being hit by the third heat wave of the summer. Temperatures potentially up to 34 Celsius this weekend.
Because we look at the third heat wave of the summer and its impact.
As another heat health warning takes effect, we'll be looking at how different jobs come with different challenges as the weather heats up. And I'll explain why I'm rather overdressed for such conditions.
The UK's third heat wave of the summer could bring temperatures up to 34 degrees in some parts of England this weekend. The UK Health Security Agency has issued yellow heat health alerts for much of the south of England and the Midlands until next week. With more, here's our climate editor, Justin Rowlatt.
This is the third heat wave of the year for the UK, and it is only July. That's very unusual. We know heat waves are becoming more frequent and more intense as our world, and the UK with it, continues to warm. Now, we human beings can find ways to stay cool in the heat, but it's not so easy for plants and for animals. Bumblebees, for example, find hot weather particularly challenging. They're dark-coloured, so absorb heat easily, and their hairy bodies mean they find it hard to shed it.
Plants and animals will experience heat, and that changes their daily behaviour and routines. And so, for example, birds will seek shelter, and that means they're not feeding, they're not rehydrating, so that has an impact on their sort of daily functions, and over time that can also cause sort of weakness and disease and ultimately increase the level of mortality.
Dormice and hedgehogs, two of our most threatened mammals, can struggle too. Fruits and nuts ripen earlier in hot weather, and it means they aren't available in the autumn when these animals need to build up reserves of fat to see them through winter. Other species do well, though. Many species of butterfly and moth flourish in hot, dry weather. But hot weather also increases the risk of wildfires. There have been blazes on Davamore in Scotland, including overnight. Dozens of firefighters supported by volunteers tackled the blazes, and a helicopter brought in water to douse the flames. And there have been wildfires on Saddleworth Moor above Manchester this year too. It experienced a devastating fire back in 2018.
Bring sandwiches, do not bring these disposable barbecues, and, be respectful. Take your rubbish home. A discarded glass can get sunlight through it, and when it's as dry as it is, can cause a fire.
Wildfires are burning in Greece at the moment, and there have been fires in France and Spain too, as Europe experiences even higher temperatures than here in the UK. And rising temperatures are already changing the species we see here in the UK. This wildlife reserve in Northamptonshire now regularly sees egrets and even glossy ibis, once very rare in the UK. And this process will continue as temperatures continue to rise. There will be winners, with some species thriving in the new climate, but there will be losers too, particularly those species that like cooler weather. As global warming continues, some may be lost from the UK entirely. So real changes happening to species here in the UK, and you can see it even in a wildlife reserve like this in a place like Northampton. So it's worth stressing just how unusual these temperatures are. A group of climate scientists in America called Climate Central reckon the temperatures in UK right now were made 5 times more likely by climate change. And a new paper published by scientists at Imperial College and the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine found that 263 additional deaths were caused in London just from the end of June to early July as a result of higher temperatures. Temperatures pushed, they estimate, 4 degrees higher than they would have been because, as I say, of climate change. Lewis.
So we're at the start of what is predicted to be the third heat wave of the summer. Temperatures hit over 30 Celsius today, while by the weekend they could once again go up to 34. We'll have the weather forecast later in the programme, but I will spoil it a bit by telling you now that next week is looking hot too. Let's hear from Chris Legg now. He's on Primrose Hill. Chris.
Yeah, Assad, beautiful view from here. And I think right now, a temperature that many people would consider perfect, and a hint of a breeze as well. So a lot of people out here enjoying a pleasant summer's evening. But as you've mentioned, it looks set to get more intense over the next few days. And of course, during a working day, it can be really difficult, especially if you've got nowhere to find shade or no air conditioning. Well, Wendy Hurrell has been out finding out how businesses are coping, and she at least found somewhere to keep cool today.
With the hot sun beating down on us yet again, how do businesses in London deal with the challenge? Well, in West Sussex, between Horsham and Crawley, there's a workshop permanently set to -10 degrees.
And this is where we do all the ice carving.
Oh, it's bliss in
And
here.
We do some on the machine here,
Yeah.
and a lot of the ice carving is done on this area here.
John can make just about any shape out of ice and is busier than ever when the weather is fine.
A lot of outside parties, barbecues, that sort of thing, birthday parties, and we cover the whole UK. So we tend to see a massive uptick during the summertime. Yeah, so we can sometimes be in the freezer till 2, 3 in the morning, carving ice. Yeah.
But you like it here because I mean this is lovely, isn't
This
it?
is
When
my
it's too hot.
comfort. This is my comfort zone. Yeah, and this is sheer bliss for me. Well away from the sun and the heat.
Most summer weekends, Ice Agency will send out 300 to 500 kilograms of ice cubes. It's the logistics that are tricky. And how do you keep your creations from being a puddle by the time they get there?
And that's very important. So we wrap the ice in bubble wrap, and then we transport it either in freezer vans, or we have a special system where it traps cold air for the whole duration of the delivery time, sometimes 5 to 6 hours, using dry ice and insulated materials.
There are some jobs with no escape from the effects of temperatures reaching 30 degrees Celsius outside.
You try to get through it. I mean, at the end of the day, there's not really much you can do nowadays. The weather's always up and down. So it can be really hard though, especially working in the cafe. We've got a hot coffee machine, we've got the cooking materials in the back. They get to at least 49 degrees, 50 degrees in the back bit there. So, I mean, working isn't for the faint-hearted here.
Just up the road from there in West Hampstead, another hot job with business quieter than usual.
We have a fan and we have just like a conditioner, a small conditioner, but it's not really helpful, but because we have lots of dryer at the shop, because we have the laundry shop, but we are going to be very hot.
And it's the lucky few with the means to beat that heat. Wendy Hurrell, BBC London.
The emergency services also under pressure today. In fact, London Fire Brigade called to a blaze in Rainham. 12 hectares on fire, 12 fire engines, 80 firefighters are tackling that blaze. That's only about 1.5 miles away from Wellington. You may remember those scenes in 2022, a wildfire that devastated the area. On one day in 2022, LFB had its busiest day since the Second World War. And of course, in that summer, they were called out to tackle 21 wildfires. Wildfire defined by LFB as at least 1 hectare, at least 4 fire engines, taking at least 6 hours to put it out. This year, already, they've attended 20, and we hope that one in Rainham doesn't become the 21st. We hope they can get it under control swiftly. Now, LFB have been carrying out drills in London parks, including in Richmond, where the Met Police and Royal Parks employees were also present, and Harry Lowe went along.
The smouldering summer of 2022 saw record temperatures and London Fire Brigade's busiest day since World War II. Since then, it's made tackling wildfires a priority, with regular drills like this one in Richmond Park, which even the deer were keen to check out.
So exercising is really important for us. It's a big part of a firefighter's day-to-day job, and planning and exercising like this is a real good opportunity for them to see how the equipment works and just to see how arduous it is. Resourcing something like this is quite difficult because of the hot weather.
Dozens of firefighters alongside members of the Metropolitan Police are working with the Royal Parks, which says drills like this are crucial to keep its millions of visitors every year safe.
It was It was excellent. It was great to see the response, especially within a site like Richmond Park, which is so complicated, so many visitors, so many different activities going on here, so that we can really test out those scenarios and see how best to deal with the issue.
There's already been more than a dozen wildfires this year alone, and the fire brigade says they'll only become more common.
It's an increase in risk. Since the last hot summer we had in 22, we've invested substantially in wildfire technology and training, extra equipment, so it's a risk that's not going to go away, and scenarios like this are ideal for us to test that.
Open fires and barbecues are banned in all royal parks. The advice is to take rubbish home and dial 999 if you see flames. Harry Lowe, BBC London.
Yeah, just to reiterate that warning from LFB, they stress do not have barbecues in public places. So easy to catch fire to the grass, especially when it comes to taking your litter home. Take glass bottles because they can magnify the sun's rays, and ideally don't smoke, but if you are a smoker, make sure your cigarette is firmly put out before you dispose of it. That way, they say, Assad, we can all enjoy a safer summer.
Yeah, it's really important advice to heed to. Chris, thanks very much for that in Primrose Hill. Many thanks.